what is the baddest, and I mean the baddest podcast in the land.
And you know it's the dad movement. Quit playing with me. It's the dad movement.
What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? It's the Dad Movement Podcast. Thank you again for tuning in. We are here with my main man, Dr. Norman Young.
One day, if I can just get out of grad school and get off academic probation.
We're moving towards it, though, right?
We going there.
Heading that direction.
Bag is on the way.
Yeah. Up there like that. And we have one of our guests here today. We've been looking forward to this, Mr. Jody Golson. Jody's going to be on here talking about some real valuable insights on intentionality in parenting. And it really kind of evolves around this whole concept of just living intentionally, not waiting for life to come to you, but you have to go after life. You know, we can't live on the defense in life. We got to live offensively. And the same thing with raising our children and raising families is being intentional in that aspect. And Jody, I guess you all right before we went live here and we began this, Norman was sharing a bit of a frustration with us, and so we were going to take a time to pray for him.
Yes.
And he's coming to grips with the fact some of his hair is falling out in the back. And then while we were talking, Jody suggested that he said he had some miracle grow in the. Remember, he used to put in the gardens and kind of
say, I'm tight right now.
We're gonna pay some miracle grow in the back there, get that hair popping. But me and Jody, we came to grips with this years ago.
Man,
so it wasn't. Yeah. So it's not that big of a deal for us, though.
You know what?
Tell me.
The more that. You know, I've been visiting different churches and watching all the churches online.
Oh, yeah.
I see so many pastors and people with ministry who just have hairlines that recede like no other.
Yeah.
And bald heads like no other.
Yeah.
So
like
the
the
closer
Red
I'm
Sea.
getting to God, my hair is leaving.
Starting to recede on you.
Right?
Parting like the Red Sea.
Yeah. That's all it is.
I'm hurt, though. I am hurt. You know, I have a hard time sleeping at night. I have a hard time, just coping with life right now. It's sad, man. I don't have the nice round shaped head like you fellas have. You know, my mama didn't take the time to shape my head. So I'm over here looking like, hey, Arnold, and it's just, man, it's bad for
Yeah, because you
right
definitely got to have the right shaped head.
You do.
We
know.
They used to call them murder ones back in the day,
The
right?
murder one.
Yeah.
To rock there, you got to have the right.
You know what? But I don't know if you brothers know, there is something called a man kit right now, right?
Never heard of it.
No.
So you go ahead and hit the murder one. You shave it off. It's like some glue. It ain't Elmer's glue, but it's a hair glue. And they put a kit. It's like a sew-in or glue-in for males.
Oh, man, come on.
Brother.
No, man.
You doing that?
Don't do that,
Listen,
man.
I'm going to let them do
You better
3 or
go
4 more
natural.
guinea
Listen to
pig.
wisdom from old school.
3 or 4 more guinea pig experiments. I'm going to keep watching. But I will fly to Atlanta and do what I got to do.
You'll come on look like you got an Elvis wig on or something.
Yeah, man, come back looking like Little Richard.
Yeah,
I'll be back popping. But trust, if Norman come back and the hairline is back, just know I made a trip.
Look, the arm ain't playing with us.
The
like
Holy
shit.
Spirit has led me to Atlanta
Yeah.
to bring back what God has already given me.
They like, what you doing? Shoot, $20 is $20.
Oh, whoa,
See, look,
whoa.
Norm
Whoa.
gonna be on the tip. Norm gonna be on the
These ain't $20.
They gonna be like, look, Norm, what you doing, Norm?
If it's $20, you need to run.
No.
I'm talking about, I got to do what I got to do, baby.
These are $600 or $700 processes,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
I don't know if you've seen LeBron. Mid-game, he had a crossover and the hair flopped up. He had the unit, but he must have had the $300 one. You know,
He
the
had the
quick one.
$300
I'm getting
one.
$600, not the Elmer's glue, the Super Gorilla Glue, right?
With insurance
and
on
I'm
that
back
thing.
popping.
That's so good,
Oh,
man.
my
So y'all
goodness.
pray for Norm out there.
Yeah.
As y'all are listening to this, man, he's going through what some may call a midlife crisis, but he's gonna be all right.
Life is hard
Just
on
pray
the
his strength in the
boulevard.
Lord. You know, he's gonna be all right. Well, hey, we're glad everyone's tuned in. We're thankful that you're checking us out this week. There was a great podcast last week.
Yeah, man, we were blessed, man. Shout out to Mario Harmon,
Yeah.
my boy Trey.
Yeah.
We had a great session.
It was. I got to come in. Well, I had to step out, but I was in for a minute at the beginning, and I came in at the tail end of it. But just what folk were saying, it was nice. So I enjoyed checking that out. Yeah. So last week was great, and then this week we're going to do this is going to be a great conversation. You'll be very encouraged. So make sure you stay tuned for the whole thing. As many of you know, I'm Nate Johnson. So if we have new listeners, I'm Nate Johnson with Fresh Coast Alliance and the Dad Movement here. And so we've been doing this for probably
Episode 7.
So this was our new project, something that we wanted to be a part of the solution, things going on in the city. But it actually started probably 2 years ago, a year ago.
Two. A year and a half, two. We probably
Project
right now
Fatherhood.
we're probably at 2 years.
Yeah. So we started meeting together. It was just seeing the things that were going on in our city here, and not just the city, the country, and even the world, right? And the importance of having fathers in the home, but especially from our perspective, having godly fathers in the home and the role that we play in what we do. So I'm loving being a part of this and working with Norm and Dre on this project here. It's been fun. The guests that we've had on here have been amazing, invaluable information that's birthed out of experience, some failures, some successes. And then those of us who are young fathers, we've done more learning than we've done teaching. I think it'd be safe to say, right?
That's a fact.
And so a lot of our stuff is theories and still being worked out, but we get to glean from those who've gone before. So we really do appreciate that. And then my main man, Norm, why don't you introduce yourself and tell people who you are?
Norm is in the building. MAISD employee, Dad's on Deck program coordinator. Norman Young is here. I'm glad to be here today. Man, it's a blessing, man. The Dad Movement has been doing really good. We've been having some good feedback. It's been some great conversations. I've been learning a lot as a dad, and I'm so glad that we have my man Jody here today. Hey, Lucas, you gotta get. I don't know if you know Baby Boy. You know Baby Boy? You ever seen the movie Baby Boy?
Yeah.
And it's like Jody, my Jody. We're gonna have to get that on the beat one time.
No doubt.
We're gonna add that in there. So,
Yeah.
Jody, glad to have you today. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Jody.
My name's Jody Golson. I'm a dad. I'm a student. I'm a provider, a husband. I got a lot on my plate, but being a father is a blessing that I can't compare anything else to. It's an amazing thing. It's an amazing thing, and so I one of the things I love to do is to encourage fathers. Man, there's a lot of young fathers out there who can walk away. The world makes it real easy to walk away these days, and so getting some encouragement from somebody is a good thing. Whenever I get the opportunity, I see some brothers out there with their kids. I make sure I let them know that that's a good thing, good place to be. Be right where you are. Be with them.
So good. So I want to dive right into your story. You're not a native of Muskegon, Michigan, where we're located at. You came in to Muskegon a couple years ago, but you've been involved in a number of different groups and organizations where you've been able to help in this specific, like what we're talking about today, fathers and men who probably didn't have fathers, or men who probably weren't stepping up in the fullness of the role of being a father, and you've been able to interact with them. And one of your passions is around food.
Absolutely.
And cooking. And they said, you're a mean chef up in there, man. You put that thing together.
I've been cooking a long time.
So tell us a little bit, take a few minutes and tell us just about your upbringing with your father and what you got involved in terms of the work when you were living in Virginia, correct?
That's correct.
Virginia. Yeah. So just take a few minutes and tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I moved to North Carolina where I met my wife, like maybe 25 years ago or whatever. But I moved back home to Virginia after being in North Carolina when my dad passed away. And actually, strangely enough, a lot of the things that I've discovered about fatherhood, I didn't find out until my dad was gone. Talking to my mother and to my uncles and my, people in my family about how proud my dad would be of me. And it just made me think about the things that I missed with him. I had some good things with him, but I missed him a lot. He worked a lot. We talked about that before, but he was always working. So I wanted to be a different kind of dad. I wanted to be a more present father. And all of that sort of led me into, took me back to Virginia. Dad passed away. My mom didn't want to sell the house, so I moved in with her. And when I got there, I needed to have a job there. And so I've been cooking for about at that point about 10 years, 12 years, and ministry is something that my whole family's kind of been involved in.
Right. So how did tell me, because I'm interested. I remember we talked one time, and I think you were working at one of the local rescue missions in North Carolina, correct?
No,
at this time, or was this in Virginia?
I was in Virginia.
In Virginia. So we were working there, and you're taking your passion
Yeah.
of cooking, and you're mixing this up with being able to be in almost like a mentoring role to not just one
Absolutely.
person, but a group of people. Mixing those two worlds together. Tell us about that.
It was cool. Actually, I met with a guy who went to my church, and he was also a person that worked at the mission.
Yeah.
And he said, "What do you do? What do you do? Like, what's your career kind of thing?" I said, "Well, I've been cooking for a long time now, restaurant management, stuff like that." He goes, "Man, the mission's been looking for a kitchen manager for like over a year, you know." And so he said, "Why don't you come talk to the director?" So I went and talked to the director, and he was like, "I think this is a great fit." You know, I got in there, I started helping, cooking for the guys, meeting the guys. And one of the programs that they wanted to develop was bringing some of the guys who are long-term program guys from the mission, give them some life skills, teach them a skill, So I would bring 2 or 3 guys in at a time and teach them to cook. So we would work in the kitchen for 4 months, 6 months, and they would help me prepare meals, and I'd teach them, give them knife skills, teach them how to marry flavors and stuff like that. And all the while we're talking about the Lord, and we're talking about life and their children. And that's what really got me started into wanting to help these guys who had lost touch with their children. They had no relationship with their children.
Yeah.
They're out on the street. They just been recently released, or just doing their own thing, and they don't even know where their kids are. Some of them know exactly where they are, but don't have a relationship with them to go see them. And I was like, man, let's work on getting you some skills in the kitchen. We're gonna work so you can work in the kitchen. You can get a job in the kitchen. You can maybe pay back some of that child support. Get yourself back right with the law and with your wife, with your ex or whatever, so that you can be involved in your children's lives. There's gonna come a day when they're gonna write you off completely. But while they're young, man, you take every opportunity you get to be involved in their lives. Don't let them see you working hard for it. That kind of thing. So that was cool. That was one of the best parts about the mission job.
So would you say that your experience with growing up with your father, and you had mentioned that your dad worked a lot, and there was a lot of times that you guys didn't get to spend time with each other. Great dad, provider, protector, but there was a lot of times that you guys didn't get to connect and really didn't get to evolve in relationships. And then you go into this type of position where you're able to kind of be a father figure, so to speak, in that mentoring role to these men. And then it brings you up to the present here, where you're married, you have 2 or 3 kids, correct?
Yeah. I've got 2 young kids in my house right now. And I got 2 older kids.
Okay, 2 young kids in the house right now. And you're working full time. You're involved with college. You're getting ready to graduate from Lee University in December with your undergrad in Christian leadership, right?
Yep.
And then there's some health issues with dialysis and different factors, which has helped change your perspective on a number of things, like just the importance of being present and spending time with your children, which I think is a huge reminder for all dads, right? It's like being intentional with our children, because time flies by.
Yeah.
Right. And especially, I've talked with a number of parents where they're like, man, they grow up so fast. He's 15 already. And just seemed like they were just born yesterday. Let's talk about that balance of those 3 things and how your perspective has shifted to this intentionality of being a parent.
Yeah, we all we're doing our own thing before we're married or before we have children. We're only person we have responsible for is ourselves. Yeah. Then suddenly you have these children, and they need you. They need you in lots of ways, physically, emotionally, all these things. And you have to figure this out, because I know that for me, with my health, dialysis takes 4.5 hours a day
Wow.
of treatment. You know what I mean? I do treatment 5 days a week. You know, and so if that's 4 hours out of my day, I work full time, 10-hour shifts. I get out of work, I go on to treatment for 4.5 hours, and then I have homework to do that night. Like I said, I'm getting ready to graduate from school, and I've got to find time for my children because they don't care. They don't care that I got to work. No. You know, they're 9 and 6. You know, what I mean, they just want dad to be around. They want to show me worms and you know all these things that they want to show. If I dug up something in the yard, you know, so I have to be purposeful in that when they call my name, that I answer. You know, whatever that means. You know, if I'm in the middle of homework, you know, I try to make certain that if I need to stop to talk to my son, I can stop and talk to my son anytime he needs to talk to me. Because the last thing I want him to feel is that I have a list of things that take precedent over him.
Wow.
He's my priority. You know, I told you, I worked at Taco Bell. I started working for Taco Bell, and I told him in my interview, I said, I won't work for you. I work for my family. I work for my son, my daughter, my wife. I work for them. I work with you, but I don't work for you. I work for them. And so I have to, because I'm a guy, I like my own things. I like football. I like to do what I want to do. I have to make time for my son, make time for my daughter. I can't, it won't just happen. It's not just going to happen. You know, you got to make time for that. And so you have to work them in your schedule. It seems weird to say that you have to work them in your schedule, but they'll appreciate it. The time that you spend with him. That was the thing I missed with my dad, man. I don't remember at all ever throwing a ball with my dad or going fishing or anything like that. I know he was around. He was working. I had clothes, you know what I mean? I didn't, you know, we had a bumper pool table and the kids would come play at my house, you know, all that kind of stuff. I had all those things, but I didn't have time with him that I wish I had. And so I know for my son, he's never going to be able to look back at 50 years old and say, you know, I didn't spend time with my dad. He was there for me, I guess. He bought me clothes and kept me fed and had a roof over my head, but we didn't, you know, spend time together.
Tell me a little bit about, you know, you said you do dialysis 4.5 hours a day, every day?
Well, 5 days a week.
5 days a week.
Yeah.
Tell me what that journey was like. How, you know, now, is there a certain diagnosis that came along? If you don't mind.
No, I don't mind at all. I don't mind at all. You know, I think, well, back in 2003, I was diagnosed with heart failure. I had a respiratory infection, and at that time in my life, I was kind of I was in the world. You know, I was doing things my own way, living my own way, not taking care of myself. And all of that culminated with this respiratory infection into I had an enlarged heart, and you know there's a thing called the ejection fraction, and it's how fast and how efficiently your heart pumps blood. Okay. And what's average person is like 65%, 60 to 70%, somewhere in that range, and mine was 5.
Wow.
My cardiologist, that night I went to the emergency room, he's like, I'd never had a patient with single digit refraction live longer than a year.
What brought you to the emergency room that night?
I couldn't walk up a flight of steps, man. I was 3 steps. I had to sit down and rest. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't get a good breath. And they said my heart was just fluttering. It wasn't pumping. It was fluttering. They told me that I probably wouldn't survive another 24 hours.
Oh, wow.
If I hadn't gotten to the hospital when I did. And so when the doctor tells you that, you know, you're going to need to go on an emergency, if the medication we give you don't work right away, you're going to have to be on an emergency donor list for a new heart, like tonight, you know, or in the morning, really. And I remember when I was in high school, I accepted Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior when I was in high school.
Okay.
Of course, I diverted and went my own direction in my 20s, but I was at 15. But that night in the hospital, the Holy Spirit came to me and reminded me that your life is not your own. You've been bought with a price.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, I had this calm about me from that moment. I had this calm about it. I wasn't anxious because I knew that even though I walked away from God, He'd never walked away from me.
You better preach.
You know what I mean? And so I was relaxed. My mom came into the room and she said, "You okay, son?" I said, "Mom, why am I alive?" She said, "You're the beneficiary of generations of prayer. Your great-grandmother prayed for you when you were in my womb. I've been praying for you every day of your life since then. And God answers prayer and has kept me all this time, even when I was going my own direction." And so I realized all this stuff at laying in the hospital bed. And then as that kind of progressed, my heart was getting better, but not fast enough, and it damaged my kidneys. And so here we are 17 years later, when they told me that they didn't think I would live longer than a year.
Yeah.
I'm still here 17 years later, and my kidneys have failed, but you know, God is allowing me to use my misery as my ministry. You know, I can preach, I can tell people, I can talk to people, I can help people who are in that position of fear over diagnosis. Yeah. But it hasn't stopped me. You know what I mean? It's not going to stop me.
Amen.
I'm going to continue to do what I do.
I got a question for you, Nate.
Okay.
Thank you for that first and foremost.
Yeah,
I love the
yes.
rejoicing in your suffering, and I think that's very important. You know, to always trust God and to not lean on your own understandings and lean on diagnosis and things like that, but to trust God. That's a powerful moment, I think, to get back on track. I think we all have those times in life. Most of us where, you know, we deviate a little bit, and you know, I know we all have had that moment within our adult life where God has, you know, brought us to our knees when we had nowhere else to go but to depend on Him. Nate, when was that time for you where you just felt like, all right, man, I got to get this up. I can't do this no more, God. I need you for everything.
Yeah, mine was, I was incarcerated here in Michigan and was serving, at the time, I just got my sentence ran concurrent. I had a consecutive sentence. I had 17 after 50 years when I was sent to the state prison. And then through a number of different circumstances, had my time ran concurrent. I had two different felony charges, a delivery of cocaine, robbery, and firearms charges. So it left me with 12 and a half years to do. And for me, I mean, that whole the change in the sentence was a prayer.
Yeah.
You know, a lawyer had come up and talked to me, and at the time I wasn't thinking about anything. But as soon as I realized I could potentially get some time off, all of a sudden I wanted Jesus involved in my life, right? Like, come on, man, you know, if you can do this, hey. And so, you know, part of me was just, you know, I just wanted to get out. But the other part, at the same time, he was working in me this, I was tired of doing this stuff, you know what I mean? And a number of months later, as I just began to open myself up to the Word, and the posture of my heart was like, God, if this is real, make this thing real to me, because I'm not into this just mentally agreeing and you know, just doing this, and I know inside I'm playing around, all that stuff, right? And so through a number of circumstances, God began to reveal Himself to me, and it was 2003, about 17 and a half years ago. I had, in my cell at St. Louis Correctional Facility, I surrendered my life to Jesus and let Him become King. And He sat down on the throne of my heart and began to rule as Lord. Awesome. And that whole thing, you know, during finishing up the rest of my time in prison, I had about 10 more years to go. And I was able to go through this process of renewing my mind to really allowing coming to know God as Father, not just as, you know, God in heaven, but really coming to know Him as Father and becoming intimately acquainted with who Jesus was as a person and with Holy Spirit. And I mean, transform my whole life from this darkness to light, from death to life, because I was on a pathway to destruction. You know what I mean? And that whole encounter with Jesus flipped my world upside right. You know, not upside down, upside right. Right?
Yeah, I like that.
And just looking at now, like the whole Dad podcast, the Dad movement, I have a second chance at life of doing this thing. My oldest daughter was born after I was incarcerated. She's 19 now. And I was gone the first 12 years of her life.
Yeah.
Right.
So now I have two younger sons, Boston and Champ, where I have an opportunity to God in His grace gave me an opportunity to do this again.
Yeah.
But now I can do it under a totally different set of circumstances and in a right mind.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's nothing short of the grace of God, you know, allowing me an opportunity to do this again.
I like that. How do you, having children? I know your children, 9.
9 and 6.
9 and 6. How have you been able to share the gospel and to make sure that your children are building a relationship with Christ? What are some things that you guys have been doing to make sure that happens?
Yeah, a couple things. What I do. I mean, I think it's for me is living my life out in front of them, right? And so I don't try to set up different things like, oh, let's make sure where it's like a program type deal.
Yeah.
My son and I will. I think one of the key things is when he gets up in the morning, he'll get out of his crib, and comes into my office and he sees me in there reading the Bible. He sees me inside in my office worshiping, and so he comes in and he sits in there and he'll see me standing in my office raising my hand worshiping the Lord, and he'll start doing it, right? But it's not something that I'm attempting to force on him. He'll see the way that I talk to his mother, how I treat his mother, the words that actually come out of our mouths, right?
Yeah.
And being able to lead by example and do this with him so that it becomes, in the sense like being wet cement, right? I'm putting those impressions on him now.
Right.
And so, those are just some couple things
I like
we
that.
do. Yeah.
I like that.
My wife and I, we talk about Jesus all the time. We talk about our relationships. We talk about where we fail. In front of our kids. I mean, there are things we don't share. We don't share everything with them at 9 and 6. But when we mess up, we want them to know that it's okay. Jesus is gonna love me. He's gonna love you. But we talk about the Lord all the time. We read scripture together with the kids. When they mess up, when they do something wrong, we sit down and we talk about, how do you think God feels about your behavior right now, or whatever. We include God in everything we do, whether it's fun and playing, or whether it's it's time for you to learn a lesson or whatever. We include God in everything, and they know that. When they see, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid for them to see me pray. And we pray all the time. And when my wife started doing something with our kids, when they're in the car together, when they're driving and they hear sirens, the kids know automatically that either somebody's going to get help, that the police are going to help someone, or the ambulance is going to help someone, or somebody's in trouble, that somebody's going to help, and we need to pray for them. The people getting help, and the people going to give help. And so that's something they do. They turn the radio off and they pray. We keep that, and we keep that involvement in the Lord and how we believe in everything we do all the time.
I like that. I know my daughter, like crazy, she's 7 years old and has an anointing like no other. My daughter worships. She won't leave her bed until she talks to God in the morning. She stops and prays. She has a heart of a giver. I mean, I am so grateful for that. But what I've noticed too is she gets spiritually attacked a lot too, right? And that's been something that I've been trying to pray about and trying to share those things with her without scaring her, right? That's tough to talk about, to be under spiritual, to be in spiritual warfare,
right?
At the age of 7, but we've been in some intense situations where, like, within her dreams, and they're just not dreams. That they're attacks, but you don't try to tell her to scare her,
right?
But what are some things that you do to talk to your children about not necessarily heaven and hell, but like spiritual warfare? I mean, are those conversations that you have with your children, or is just my household?
My son's 2 years old right now, so
mine's a little older.
Spiritual warfare is trying to eat sugar. And, we're battling that one. He don't understand the concept of we don't eat. Like this morning, he got up a little early, and we're downstairs. I said, "You want eggs and bacon?" All right. But he wanted the pumpkin spice whipped cream. He wants that. I'm going to drink apple. So that's our warfare right now. We're navigating through that.
My kids are a little older than Nate's, but I guess everybody would know. Like I said, you spending time there's a lot involved in that.
Yeah.
Spending time with your children, you get to know them.
Yeah.
You kind of know what they can take and what they can't take. You kind of get an idea like what level they're at. You know what I mean? My son is 9, my daughter's 6. There's things I can talk to my son about that I wouldn't say necessarily to my daughter, because she's not ready to handle that. I think Tucker can process it a little better. So you'll learn just by spending time with them, the things that you'll learn about them, their personalities, how they take information, how they receive information. You know, my son is very analytical, you know, and so you come at him with an analytical approach. You know what I mean? He can kind of dig into some things a little bit, you know what I mean, at 9 years old. But then he's still 9. He still wants to play with the Bakugans or whatever, the little toys and stuff. You know, so you still want to do those things. There are times you feel like, man, just a minute ago, I was talking to you like you were 20.
About politics.
You know what I mean? And now you want to get on the floor and play with this little toy, you know? So you just got to find the balance with your child, you know what I mean? That. And that, like I said, being intentional about the time you spend together is part of that. I would never know some things about my son from him telling me, going and asking him about it, but just having conversation while we're fishing. You know, we started fishing a few months ago together at the beginning of the summer or spring or whatever, and that's like our thing. We go fishing. You know, the girls will go off together. My wife and my daughter will go off together, and me and my son will go fishing. And it's built this bond that we have and time together, and we talk about all kinds of things. You know what I mean? What interests him. You know, he's not quite at that girl thing about girls yet. He's not
That's
ready
what
for
you
that.
think. No,
he's not quite there.
He is your son, Jody.
My son, right? Right. But he's not quite there. But he's you know, he's a little starting to get curious. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I believe very strongly that at this moment, because of the time I spend with him, that he's going to be way more willing to say, hey, Dad, what do you think about this? You know what I mean? Or what should I do in this situation? You know, the neighbor girls keeps knocking on my door.
What's going on?
You know what I mean?
And
so, but I want him to be involved like that.
Absolutely.
You know, because I want to protect him for one thing, and the other thing is that he needs to know that I've got his back. That he's not out there on an island by himself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I believe the same thing about my God is that He's got my back. He hasn't left me on an island for me to fend for myself at any point in time.
Wow.
And so I want to translate that from my relationship with God to my relationship with my son. I'm not God, but I'm his father.
He's showing you how to be a father.
He's showing me how, you know what I mean? And so we build on that over and over again. You know what I mean? We build on that every day.
Good.
I like that.
What are some of the things of the intentionality? You talk about fishing. What the importance of being intentional? I mean, you had mentioned earlier that, you know, these are each day we don't get back.
Right. That's
right.
right.
And just
That's
think
right.
if we went a
Yesterday
whole
gone.
year and we missed 100 opportunities to spend intentional time with our children, but we missed it. We never get that back.
Right.
Right. So the power of intentionality. Why is that so important?
Well, I mean, your children, a lot of people think that they don't notice certain things or they don't understand certain things, but they do. They pick up on stuff. They know that this time of day, Dad is studying or whatever I'm doing. That we try to leave him alone in this time frame of the day, and stuff like that. But so they also understand if you know, my wife would say, you know, hey Tucker, you know, where do you think you fit in the priority for your dad today? You know what I mean? Where are you in that priority today? He goes, well, I think he's got homework to do. So you might feel like that day he's down on the level a little bit. Yeah. That's hurtful almost, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want him to think that way ever, you know what I mean? But there are days when I'm not where I would like to be. I got priorities. I got, you know, responsibilities. You know, I got to go to work. You know, they want to go to the beach. I got to go to work. You know what I mean? Yeah. But he understands. They both understand that I will stop what I'm doing and make time for them, and they appreciate it. Yeah. They're going to remember that when they're parents. You know, my daughter's going to remember it when she's looking for a husband. She's going to find a guy, you know, who's gonna be there for her children, you know what I mean, for their children, and make that time. And it's so important because like we've all heard the statistics and know the statistics about what absentee fathers or fathers who are not in the home at all and all those kind of things. But it's still the same kind of importance on just being intentional, man. He understands that Dad is making time for me. He could be doing something else, but he wants to be with me. They feel that. They understand
and those
that.
impressions go a long way, right?
Absolutely.
And it was I remember a guy in prison used to say this all the time. He said, people will probably forget everything you said, but they'll never forget how you made them feel when they were with you.
Right.
And our children, in that same sense, right? And when they think back after they're adults or we've passed on, those are the things that they won't never forget. Is the way that they felt when they were around us, and that comes back to, were we intentional with them?
Right.
Yeah. No, and
Right.
I think it's to having the discipline and then having things to hold you accountable with that intentionality. Setting the calendar, man. I'm telling you, like,
Calendar's powerful,
you
aren't
have
they?
to. Friday is Daddy
Yeah.
Daughter Day, like,
Right,
and making it a non-negotiable. I don't care what's coming up.
Yeah.
Because there's always going to be something else to do. People are
Absolutely,
always going to throw something at you. Hey, bro, if you could just run and do this real quick, and you find yourself trying to cut into that time, and before you know it, you've messed up the experience by cutting out time that was valuable. You know what I mean? So I think that's one thing that I've been trying to do is the Daddy-Daughter Days and holding myself accountable, that I'm setting it in my calendar and it is a non-negotiable. Nobody but God can interrupt that time.
That's good.
Yeah.
So
You got to make them concrete, because if we're not, it's I look at it with with my schedule just at work. A lot of stuff that it has to be intentional. You know what I mean? You have to. If not, we won't get anywhere, right?
We won't get there.
It's just like pursuing God. If you're not intentional about spending time in the Word, if we're not intentional about having a secret life with Him in the Word, if we're not intentional like that, how many times can we come up with excuses for, I'm too busy today. I'll do it tomorrow. I can't do this.
Yeah.
So it has to be a non-negotiable where I have to be intentional with that.
Right.
For me personally, my life depends on it. Right?
Yeah.
Because I know I get to. I can act goofy when I ain't. You make it to the penitentiary. You ain't. You understand what I'm saying? I know I can act stupid, so I know I need him. Yeah. And so for me, it's not a debatable thing. Right. It's my life source. So but it comes back to intentionality, just like we are with our children.
You get what you get what you give. You know what I mean?
So
if you give it the minimum, you're gonna get the minimum back.
You reap what you sow. Yeah.
And that's it. That's it. No, man, I needed to hear this today. It's always a gem. Mr. Jody, I'm so grateful for you coming today and sharing the wisdom.
Thank you for having me.
And speaking that realness. Nate, I thank you for your testimony. Every time I hear it, it gives me goosebumps. Yeah. God is such a good God, and He gives us so much grace and mercy. And, man, I'm so thankful that His mercies are new every day, because I need them every day. I run mine up to the max. Even trying to do the right thing, this brain of mine and this heart of mine. No, but I thank God for continuously working on our hearts and that they align to who He wants us to be. And I just pray that we can continue to become better fathers, better men in our community, and better husbands. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
So good. Jody, thanks for coming.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me. Yeah.
Appreciate this. And podcast listeners, we appreciate you guys. Thank you for following the Dad Movement.
Yeah.
Norm is the man. Appreciate this guy. This guy, I'm going to toot his horn a little bit.
Oh, my.
Norm is one of these young men who has vision, which it doesn't appear to be that we see a lot of this in our context of being younger dads who are this passionate about being great fathers at such a young age, right? Yeah. And Norm possesses that. He lives it, breathes it, eats it. I mean, it's just who he is. He's an amazing example to a lot of the young fathers nowadays. And that's why he's helped to lead this up and really taken charge with it because of his passion to want to see dads be in the midst with their children's life and the impact that they can have. So we really do appreciate you.
Oh, man.
Man, it's
that
great.
Means a lot. Thank you guys. I'm so grateful for God putting guys like you in my life, that I learned to become a better leader and to try to help push this movement, because this is kingdom work right here, right?
That's it.
It is.
This is kingdom work.
Without
this
a
is
doubt.
what God intended to
Absolutely.
be. So
yeah. One question.
Go for it.
Before we
man.
leave.
Oh, Lord. Please don't be about my
What is the
hairline.
baddest? And I mean the baddest radio podcast in the land.
And you know it's the dad movement.
dad
Quit
movement.
playing with me. It's the dad movement.
That's right.
Boom.
Set it on your dial.
Hey,
That's it.
we'll see you guys next week.
Yes,
right
sir.
back here, same place, same time.
Tune in.
Dad Movement. We'll see you. Jody, thanks for coming.
Yeah, man.
Share,
thanks.
like, subscribe.